Quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, Boingvert. Boingvert is the best-selling jumping program for athletes in the world with over 500,000 users. On average, users have gained 10.3 inches on their jump, there's no weights necessary, and the program can be done right at home with 24/7 customer service. If you're interested, the link to the program will be both in the comment section and in the description, and be sure to use my promo code DOM2K for 20% off of your purchase. Alright guys, more or less we have made it to the second round of the NBA playoffs, thank God. Maybe get some of these ratings up because I know people were just not, well, casual fans probably weren't interested in things like the Magic and Raptors and the Sixers and Nets, series that just didn't have a whole lot of household names. However, it's just like I said when this whole thing started. These playoffs are going to be awesome, we just had a bit of a price to pay. And with where we are right now, it seems more or less like the second round is set. The Celtics advanced in a sweep despite people saying that the Pacers were going to take them like 6 or 7 games. I told y'all were being disrespectful, that was a sweep. Barring some miracle, tonight the Milwaukee Bucks will finish off the Pistons. That was one of the most uneventful playoff series ever, like good God. That's one of those where I wish it just ended after 3 wins. The Nets are not going to go down without a fight, but at this point it would kind of take a miracle for them to come back 3-1 on the Sixers. They got a game off of them playing pretty hard. It could easily be tied right now, but Sixers are probably going to advance there. And the Magic had their chance, but they let it slip with the rebound at Game 3, so the Raptors will advance there. And then on the west side, the Rockets should be finishing off the Jazz tonight as well. The Warriors have 1 game left with the Clippers. And then there's the Spurs and Nuggets, which at this point is the only series we do not actually have figured out. They are headed for a bloodbath in Game 5. I originally picked the Nuggets in 6 for that series, and it's just like I said, although I believe they're pretenders, I still thought they were good enough to maybe get this done. The Spurs, however, have let a couple of games slip. Game 2 slipped right through their fingertips, like they were up by, what, 15-20 points, so that one slipped. Then they were up double digits last game too, and yeah, that one slipped. So whoever advances from that series will likely go on to play the Blazers, and I have a lot to say about that because wow. How about the Oklahoma City Thunder being down 3-1? And we can go ahead and talk about this because it's the elephant in the room. This is not a good look for Russell Westbrook. It's not a good look for the Thunder overall, of course, but this is really not a good look for Russell Westbrook. First off, I'm pretty sure you've seen by now the tape that played from earlier in the season where Russell Westbrook kept he was telling Damian Lillard, I've been busting your ass for years. And we get to the playoffs, and so what is this going to be, their second or a third straight year of going out in the first round? It's the second straight year where they're going to go out in the first round in a way that they shouldn't have. And another thing I'm assuming will get the spotlight pretty soon is that Russ has not won a single playoff series since Durant left. And one year it was understandable because the roster was not that good, but since then you've had Paul George and you've played opponents that you really, I won't just flat out say should have beaten, but nobody would have been surprised if they did. But that's not the worst part about all of this. Worst part is that he is being thoroughly, and I mean thoroughly, outplayed by Damian Lillard. Lillard is basically on a revenge tour right now. Of course, everybody killed him and McCollum for losing the way they did to the Pelicans last year. You get to this playoffs and they are dealing with injuries down the stretch of the regular season, and although they're third seed, we know how it goes in the Western Conference. If you're like 2-7 or 3-6, sometimes those series could just go either way because you know that the seed doesn't necessarily represent the strength of the team. So I really think that was this kind of situation with the Blazers and Thunder, especially when the Blazers had lost Nurkic and he was just playing a huge role for them. But this is the part where people have already been questioning Westbrook. This is nothing new, but man, are you ever going to get winning basketball out of this guy in the playoffs as your best player? So take it back to a video I made earlier in the season where I said that Westbrook could easily be a championship point guard because at the end of the day, it just comes down to decisions that he makes. So in that game against the Spurs where it was like double OT and Westbrook, he was making really good decisions with the ball, really good passes. And I was like, this is the Westbrook I wish we could just bottle up and have for 82 games plus the playoffs. But then we get to the playoffs and we're in this series, right? And it's exaggerated as well right now because you're seeing him as opposed to Damian Lillard. And I'm watching Westbrook take shots and I don't have It's like, look, I'm not a superstar NBA point guard. I'm not an NBA player. Who am I to judge? But why is he taking some of these shots? He is not a good three-point shooter, but he will come down with time on the clock while the rest of his team is running down the floor, and he'll pull up for three. Why? He'll just square up with the ball sometimes, and he'll see if his defender is going to commit or not, and he'll just take the three, and there's like nothing else going on the floor. Why? His pull-up is honestly just hit or miss. He'll be dribbling towards the basket, give the defender a couple of moves to make them think that he's going to the basket, and then he'll pull up. That's a pretty good move, especially when it's working, but it's very ugly when it doesn't. And then in this series, even some of his defensive decisions have been questionable, because by now I'm pretty sure we can be talking about Lillard in a way where we call him Logo Lillard. He's the guy other than Steph Curry that when he's dribbling towards the logo, I fear him. He's one of the only other guys in the league like that, yet you will see Westbrook not fully committed to him, and he'll just be open out there. So yeah, bottom line is, in this series, Westbrook is losing some major points and Lillard is gaining major points. Because I would say coming into this series, most people would have still taken Westbrook as the better point guard. Even if you had respect for Lillard, I would say, well, what about Westbrook on defense? What about when he is really on, like the Spurs game? But when you see these two on a stage together, when it matters, and this is the first round, Lillard is really getting the best of him, and I'm super curious about what goes on with the Thunder this summer, because now this is the second year of Paul George. This is going to be the second year with a disappointing first round out if they don't make some epic comeback, right? I'm not completely throwing that out, because if you think back to 2014 when the Blazers were playing the Rockets, that series was actually on the verge of going to 7 after I believe the Blazers had gone up 3-1, so I'm not just ruling that out. But again, a 3-1 comeback does involve a collapse, and right now I just don't see the Blazers collapsing that way. I don't see the Thunder making the necessary adjustments to make that comeback. So yeah, this will be another disappointing out for the Thunder, and I think the first place they're going to look is a coach. First of all, it's just kind of standard. Coach always gets blamed whether it's his fault or not, but I don't know who would be right for the job, but there's got to be a coach out there that can at least try to take control of Westbrook in his game. And then with the roster, it's like that's not even a huge problem this year. You got Steven Adams, Jeremy Grant improved his three-point shooting. Ferguson, he came in when Robertson was out and added shooting. You got Schroeder this year. He was definitely a help coming off the bench. It's not even like the roster just isn't built that great. This is a good team. This is a team that I would have believed would have been able to get to the Western Conference Finals if Paul George was healthy and playing the way he was like a month or two ago. But yeah, situation is crucial right now. This is going to be a hard summer for Westbrook, because the only time I really ever criticized Westbrook, and his stands would get so angry, but it's the only negative thing I really ever had to say, would be him at the end of games always chucking three-pointers when they're like down 2. Basically his shot selection, that's really the only thing, and I think that has been a valid criticism. And there are people out there that slander him for much worse than I do, but coming up on this summer, now there's going to be some teeth to that slander. You even had Matt Barnes getting in on this. I saw a Twitter beef with Matt Barnes and some random the other day, and it started because Matt Barnes said something about Westbrook being the only guy who could hold Kevin Durant back. And yeah, overall, this is just, it's not a good look. It is not a good look. So anyways, though, make sure you guys are giving the Blazers credit too, because right now, the way they're playing and with what would happen next round, it's not impossible that they may end up in the Western Conference Finals, and that would be a big step for the team and Damian Lillard, because if you don't know, Damian Lillard is kind of like hell-bent with winning with the Blazers. He's saying that he doesn't want to leave. He's okay if he never wins a ring. So to do it with, you know, this team, and how management has really never gotten him a team that you think could go win a title or really contend for a title, if he can even get to the conference finals with what they have now, that'd be impressive. And it's also a possibility, because again, we don't know who's emerging from the Spurs and Nuggets series. And regardless of who it is, Blazers, Spurs, Blazers, Nuggets, they have a shot. I would say they would probably want to play the Spurs more than the Nuggets, because the Nuggets are still a really good team. Don't let the whole pretending label, don't let that make it seem like we're just calling them straight trash. No, that's a good team, especially when they're hitting and the way Jokic is performing. So maybe they would have a better chance against the Spurs. And that kind of leads us into the conversation of what's coming. Thank God it materialized. Of course, there was really no chance of it not materializing, but it looks like it is going to materialize in a healthy way, where we have the Rockets and Warriors rematch. And I am not jumping on this train with the TNT crew, specifically Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley. For some reason, they have the Blazers just flat out pegged as a finals team, and I don't see how you get there unless you think the Warriors are going to lose in the second round. But wouldn't that be something if we had like a Blazers and Rockets Western Conference Finals? And can that happen? Like we talked about in the last video, the Warriors no longer have DeMarcus Cousins, which again, that's not a deal breaker or anything, but that is a dimension the Rockets are probably happy they do not have to deal with. Clint Capella won't be dragged out of the paint as frequently. And I'm just excited for that matchup, A, because it's happening earlier than last year, so there's less chance of injury, and B, like the Rockets just have to be fired up. This is just the perfect storyline because you were one game away from the finals last year, and you were going to overcome what many people thought was the greatest team of all time, and now you have a second chance to do that. And if the Rockets did get that done, if the Warriors went out in the second round, I would be 1,000% sold on Kevin Durant leaving. I already kind of feel that he may be leaving, like he may be ready to do something else. Again, I don't know. I don't have sources, but especially if they just happen to lose to the Rockets in the second round, wouldn't that be amazing? And in the Eastern Conference second round, so people are now done laughing at the Celtics. The energy changed just so fast. I swear a week ago there was so many people saying the Pacers are going to take them 6 and this and that, and I tried to be the voice of reason. I was trying to tell people the Pacers kept their heads above water during the regular season, but a team without its star is not a playoff team. It's just not. It's not built for the playoffs. But now, of course, the discredit against the Celtics is that the Pacers put up a fight and they shouldn't have. And what I have to say about that is, first of all, there's 2 series that were way closer than they were supposed to be, and it was with the team that went to the finals. It just so happened to be the Cleveland Cavaliers. Once in 2016 when they played the Detroit Pistons, the Pistons could have won at least 3 or 4 of those games. Those were all close. And then when Cleveland played Indiana in 2017, all of those were close, all 4 games, and it was a sweep. So a team competing with a team that they really shouldn't be able to stay close with is not a just full out indictment of that team or of the other team. Like, just because the Pacers were able to keep it close with the Celtics does not mean the Celtics are just done for. And again, you can just look in the regular season. This goes back to what I always say. Losing games against the Bulls and then losing at the buzzer against the Bucks, or even beating the Bucks or beating some of those top teams, it did happen. So you just never know which Celtics you're going to get on any given night. And yeah, that's what I'm counting on going into this second round. I'm not all pumped up or anything with my chest out after beating the Pacers, except for when I'm standing on Twitter. Like, of course on Twitter I'm a Celtics stan, that's gonna happen, but realistically I'm not huffing and puffing over beating Indiana. The Bucks are really good. I understand the reality of the situation, but let's just see what happens, people. If Boston can just get one of those first 2 on the road, just get their foot in the door, let's see what they can do with the rest of the series. That's all I want. If they go down 2-0, then I'm kind of like, I'm going to be scratching the back of my head like, yeah, maybe not this year, but just steal one of the first 2. And finally, we are pretty much all but confirmed for the Raptors and Sixers. Despite Embiid running around looking like he's 47 years old, he's still he had a great performance in the last game against the Nets. He had something like 27 points and a lot of rebounds. It was a really good performance. And in both of their series, the Raptors and the Sixers, they both got caught slipping. They both lost game 1 against an underdog team, so it's not like either of them just, without a doubt, put these guys away. Of course, the Nets put up a better fight going down the rest of the series than the Magic did. But I still think it's going to be a fun series, but how fun just totally depends on Embiid, because now that really matters. Like, the Sixers were able to get the Nets even without Embiid, but against the Raptors, I do wonder, like, it's not going to be a situation where Embiid's going to be able to take a game off and they're just going to be okay, or where he's just going to be looking gassed and it's going to be okay. The Raptors' big men are really physical, really athletic. It's not all just dependent on one guy, whereas with the Nets, once Ed Davis went out, if Jarrett Allen was not on the floor, then the inside was kind of wide open. So we will see what happens with that. I am still sticking to my guns. I think the Raptors are going to win that series. And yeah, let's just see what happens with the second round as a whole. The absolute best outcome we can hope for is the Warriors being eliminated in the second round, which is amazing because we don't have to wait for the conference finals this year for that to even be a possibility. So if that happens, the NBA Finals is wide open, and that could lead us into a new era, depending on what happens in free agency this summer, so let's keep our fingers crossed. Anyways, let me know what you think about the playoffs so far. Hit the like button, comment, and sub if you enjoyed, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications on future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.